Today we're in Raleigh, North Carolina for a look inside the home of artist and potter Caroline Boykin. This 1960s house needed a lot of love, but Caroline fell for its soul and transformed it while keeping its original charm. Soft neutrals let her antiques, family heirlooms, and layered artwork shine, reflecting her feminine, classic, and cozy style. And we'll even step inside her studio where her creativity comes alive in every detail. To watch Caroline's full episode ad-free, scan the QR code on screen or click the join button below.
Homeworthy, hello, I'm Caroline. Welcome to North Carolina. I can't wait to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we take you inside the world's most beautifully decorated homes and introduce you to the brilliant people who live there.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Liz Lang. Welcome to Grey Gardens.
Click the join button below to access all of our latest episodes ad-free and watch extended cuts of this and other homes, opening the doors to new rooms and exclusive content featuring our beloved hosts.
I can't wait to see, I'm so excited.
And if you're looking to shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy tastemakers, be sure to use the product links below or scan the QR code on screen to find fabulous furniture, coffee table books, and accessories that can transform your house into a home.
Hi, I'm Caroline Boykin. I'm an artist and welcome to my home in Raleigh, North Carolina. This house is designed by Arthur McKinnon. I think it was built in 1961 or two, but he was kind of a famous architect here in Raleigh. He built St. Mary's School and a lot of residential spaces throughout Raleigh. A lot of them have sadly been torn down now. When we first got to come see the house, we'd seen the outside and fallen in love with it, but had no idea what we would be walking into when we came to see it for the first time. And the house was very much in disrepair. It was an older couple that lived here before us, and they just couldn't keep up with everything. So as soon as we came in, my husband went with the realtor to talk about the important things, and I meandered around by myself and just absolutely fell in love with the possibilities of the space. And my husband, was checking on the foundation and all of the things that were important. So after we finished, it was in the beginning of February, the beginning of February when we came and saw it. And so out front, the people who built the home, they planted a big cherry tree. And so the cherry tree was blooming. It blooms a big, beautiful white bloom first, and then those fall and the leaves come. And so my husband and I met underneath that cherry tree, and it happened to be raining cherry blossoms on us that day. And so it just felt very magical and beautiful. And so Will, my sweet husband, was like, oh my gosh, absolutely not. This house, it probably should be torn down. It's way too much work. And I just was standing there, with the cherry blossoms falling in my hands, with tears in my eyes. And the rest was history. Y'all follow me into the sitting room. This is one of my favorite spots in the house. It is the low ceilings. There are no ceiling lights in here, which we kept that way. So it's moody and fun. And this is where we put our Christmas tree. And my girlfriends and I usually will end up in here. Lots of seating, lots of gabbing, very fun space. This hearth was original to the home, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's gorgeous. I did a little research, and it was imported from Italy. It's from the late 1800s and carved beautifully. You can see the cornucopia and the floral motif. I think it's quite lovely, but it's incredibly ornate. So I tried to combat how ornate and kind of stiff that is with how creamy and textured and layered and homey the rest of the room is. Consoles I got from my favorite antique store in Fairhope, Alabama called Crown and Colony. They get containers all the time, and most of my home is from them. I follow their feed constantly. They're my favorite. For a while, I was sourcing vintage frames for my paintings, and I don't really do that right now anymore. But for these two paintings, my grandmother gave me these beautiful hand-carved frames that she had in her home. They're spectacular, but they were kind of deteriorating and falling apart, and I can't sell that to anybody, so I just painted some very abstract paintings on them just to get a little color and to go behind my lamps, and I think it adds a nice extra layer to the space. The matching sofas are actually from Crate and Barrel. I'm so proud. They're Jason Arnold for Crate and Barrel, and I loved the pleated detail on them, and they're still very simple and just beautiful lines, and we can throw a bunch of people on them. My kids like to hop from each part. And we did matching bongo stools from Coley Home. Love them. These paintings on this wall are lithographs of Etruscan pottery from the late 1700s, which is pretty cool. Some of these pots have broken and are not here anymore, so I think it's really lovely that they are here. I'm a potter, so of course I fell in love with them. And then the Greek key detailing mimics what is on my consoles, which I thought was really great altogether. And then behind you, over here is a painting that I had commissioned by a dear friend of mine, Sandy Hodgson, out of Fairhope, and that's a spot where my husband and I got engaged, and I gave him that as a wedding gift when we got married a million years ago, and he probably didn't think twice about it when I gave it to him, but now that we have been together so long and he lives with an artist, he really does appreciate art now, and hopefully my girls will want to have that one day. So we decided on a very neutral color palette for this room, but we did a two-tone where the trim and the casings, the chair railing is a little bit darker than the wall color and the ceiling, and I think that that works really well to not make the room feel so precious. Our curtains are French returns, a simple French return with a blue silk and a heavy trim that is really lovely. The sconces are antiques. They are originals from Italy. I got those also at Crown and Colony in Fairhope, and I love the color, that it's ornate but not too gaudy. I think that they are beautiful, and that's our only real source of light in here, so it's still moody. Okay, we are now in my dining room. Welcome. I would not be a proper Southern woman if I did not set the table for you. I personally love to set the table. Growing up in Alabama, we would only see my maternal grandmother on 3 days: Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And she would never really play with us, but she'd always have the most beautiful table set. And I just have warm memories of that being the time that I would get to see my grandmother, was when the table set. So that is a form of love for me. I love a beautiful table set, and doing flowers myself too. Those are all from Trader Joe's. This is my wedding china and our beautiful table. These are antique chairs that I got in the mountains in Cashers, North Carolina. I love them. And my dining room table, my mom and I found in Loxley, Alabama at the just littlest hole in the wall antique store for, I don't know, maybe a couple $100, and which is wonderful for a dining room table. And it has tons of scratches and watermarks, and we just think of that as a form of love. But I really love it, and I'm so proud of this find. The chandelier was original to the home and is absolutely spectacular. Just really, really love it, and I'm so proud to have it in our house. And when we got the house, this room was like a denim blue, and the ceiling and the chair rail and the trim was a nice yellow, and we had lovely, there's probably a name for it, but my husband and I called it mullet window treatments. We quickly got rid of those, and these are Jean Monroe. This is a Jean Monroe fabric that I absolutely love, and a fun fringe. My husband calls these my grandma curtains, but I like a little grandma. They are formal, and there's lots of antiques, and I think it's really fun that we cut that and tone it down a little bit with a Brenda Bogart painting over here above the buffet. Brenda is one of my all-time favorite artists. You'll probably hear me say that about all of the art in my house. But I love Brenda's artwork, and I love that it tells a story. She does paper cutouts and collages them together, and we are a bulldog family. We're on our second bulldog, and so we found this original in Colorado on a trip with my family, and our first bulldog, Gus, was very sick at the time, and so it was meant to be. I love her work. So now her and I actually share a same gallery. We both show in Charlotte, North Carolina together, and I'm really proud to have this. I love her work. And behind me is just an antique. I think this is I think it's a Swedish landscape that I've had for many years. And this is my first big girl purchase. This is again from Crown and Colony in Fairhope, and a buffet that is, I think it's French, and it's original, and I love it so very much. These antique director chairs with the original leather I found in Casters, North Carolina at an antique store, and they are heavy and wonderful. I like being able to have a little extra seating for when people are, waiting to all sit together at the table, that there's somewhere else to sit within here. My sense of style is very feminine, I guess, but classic, and hopefully homey too. When you walk into our home, I hope that you can smell something cooking in the kitchen and take your shoes off and lay on our couch and pet our dog and run around with my kids. I want you to feel as comfortable as possible. I am a collector of everything. Being an artist, I kind of like for my walls to start with a very clean and calm color, usually whites, creams, because I like to fill my home with artwork and vintage things. My husband and I are always looking at antique stores and cherish for stubs. I love to collect art, especially from contemporaries of mine. I like art that tells a story, and it's really fun when it's from people that I know personally. And so my home is filled with lots of old things. Okay, all right, this is our kitchen. It is a very funny space. It's long and cut off from the rest of the house, but I do love that we can see the street and my kids playing in the front yard while I'm cooking. To be honest, I really thought that this might be the one space that we knocked down some walls and reconfigured everything, but we got in and decided to just live in it for a little bit to really decide what we want to do. And once I got in here, it flows so wonderfully, and they did a remodel in the 90s, and whomever laid it out did such a good job that I kind of fell in love with how easy it is to get to everywhere in my kitchen. And so it used to be just like a big wooden space. There was 100 million upper cabinets, and so there's a Gil Schaefer house that I am in love with. I cannot remember what body of water it's on, but it's a personal home of his, and it's this big white open space and has beams down it, and so that was kind of my starting point, my inspiration for this space. So we painted the beams and took out a ton of the uppers and added in some outdoor lanterns, which I think is fun for the space, and just really opened it up and tried to let in as much as the pretty natural light as we could. Over here we have a big, huge industrial range that I love to cook on. And this brick is the same brick that is on the facade of the house. And it is from an old tobacco factory in Durham, North Carolina, which I think is pretty cool. So if we had reconfigured this space, I would have had to get rid of the brick, and we really love it. And so I'm glad that we didn't have to do that. The countertops were a beautiful deep red when we got here. So we took those out and I added a Taj Mahal. I searched high and low for this one to have more brown in it than gray tones to help tone down our heart of pine floors. And then we added a bunch of plates and antiques, and this is a relic from Italy. And then this antique painting I found at an antique store here in Raleigh with my mom. And I waited a day too late. I saw it, I loved it. I usually like to try and wait a day or two to make sure that I'm really in love with it. So I went back to find it, and somebody had bought it, and I was heartbroken. And then like a month or two later, I went back and it was there. And we were so excited. And so that painting of fruit hangs over our ginormous fruit bowls that I have kids in and out of my house all day long. So it is a special day when they go for the fruit bowl instead of the snack bags in the pantry, but I try. That is a paper mache bowl from a really cool store in Birmingham, Alabama called Shop Mason, and I love that. These set of 4, there's actually 5 of them. They're called pigeonniere pots. I got them at Crown and Colony in Fairhope. And I was searching for, I really thought I was gonna put creamware up there to tone down the color, but I found these pots and they are crusty and could not be uglier, and I just think that they really are fun. And I tried to Google what a pigeon pot is, and I couldn't find it online, so maybe they just bamboozled me. But I love them, and I think that they add just some kind of like gritty character to the space. Being a potter, I make pumpkins and pears during this time of the year. And this is actually the first pear I ever made. It's of course broken. Any pottery, paintings, anything of mine that you see in my house, there is a flaw and I couldn't sell it. But this is from 2013 and is a first pear of mine. And so I love it very much. And as we get into the kitchen further, this is our breakfast nook. We spend so much time here. This is where we do homework and hear about our days. This piece right here is built into the wall. I really thought that we were going to get rid of this. It had very ornate stained glass in it, but we decided to just paint it white, the same white as the wall, so it would just kind of melt away. And then we added fun chicken wire, and this is where we keep, you know, the cups that we use every day, and then all antique finds of mine. And I love this little French painting of a person out feeding chickens. I just love it, little bit. And then these are antique chairs, I think from France, and I didn't even have them recovered because I know within a couple years with my girls they will need a redo. All right, here is our little bar area. It's a really tight squeeze, but really fun that you can come in and out of the kitchen into our den area. And I really enjoy the kitchen being cut off from the rest of the house so that, you know how most people get stuck in the kitchen when you go into someone's house, and I love that that stays away. But we love this little baby space. It used to have this really fun door that what you could close and like have this closed off if somebody was bartending. But with my young kids and just the amount of tag that we play in the house, it just was not functional anymore. I was very sad to let that little piece of history go. So we kept the tight space. We changed out the countertops and added a Counting and Tout wallpaper that I love the texture on. There's no real natural light in here, so I picked a wall covering that had a little bit of a shimmer again to it to pick up the light. And I love the contrast between the color of the high gloss, I guess that's kind of a tealy green, with the creams. And this is a painting that I got at the same gallery in New Orleans as my closet in the foyer. My husband loves these boats. And I love that as you're looking in from the den, you can see into our kitchen and that antique painting that I love so much. Everything in here again is pretty much an antique that we have sourced all over and taken our time picking and loving. And these are little scarves, little silk scarves that my late grandmother Sue found in Germany. It's I think it might be the only piece of hers that I have in my house. And she lived in a little tiny house in Montgomery, Alabama, and I loved her dearly. So these make me really happy. I would say the heartbeat of our home is probably the den. It feels almost sunken in. The ceilings are higher than the rest of the home with wood beams, and there's a fireplace with a very low profile. And we have a sofa that kind of is an S shape, and so you can fit 1 million people, and usually there are people sitting on the floor, and music playing and candles, and you can flow in and out from the kitchen to the outside space very easily there. So I think that is the heartbeat of our home. Now we are coming into our den. This is our favorite room. We spend all of our time in here, mornings snuggled up on the couch, and usually have this fire going. I do want to tell y'all that when we got the house, that this was a very fancy fish tank. And I swear it looked like they had gotten fish out of the stream across the street. I mean, it was something. And so that was like one of my stipulations, that if we do get the house, like they had to take care of rehoming the fish. But we just took it out, and I love this little nook. It's got a lot of silver that I love to collect, and artwork from a friend, Amanda Norman, in Nashville. As we get into the room, you see that we have the really lovely beams and then a skylight that lets in a lot of natural light. This room, again, was terribly brown when we got our hands on it, so we just kind of lightened and brightened everything. My husband and I really had a hard time deciding on a yes or no, because this is also the brick, the original brick from Durham, but we did whitewash it, and I'm really glad that we did, just to tone a bit of that down. And you can still see the fun texture in it. These swivels are from Circa, and my girls love to spin in them, and my husband and I found this piece at an antique store here in Raleigh. We like to fight over who saw it first. I'm really getting him now to love antiques, as you can tell. This is a pottery piece that I made 1 million years ago. I don't really make pottery anymore, but I love having some of it around the house. And this incredible sofa, we love it so much. There is a mid-century modern store here in Raleigh called Evan Reed, and he's the coolest guy. And he found this sofa in an estate in California, and he had it recovered, and I actually put new springs in it because my kids treat it as a trampoline. But he had it recovered, and I swear I watched this couch for about a year. I didn't know if I was cool enough to have a couch like this. But it's a Klimt, and we love it. It can fit 1 million people on it, and we usually do all curl up and like to watch movies and snuggle up in here in the mornings. Our bookcase is filled with so much love and found pieces. I do have sets of antique books that I like to collect, but also to my father's dismay, I like to turn books around to where the pages are showing, not the spine. I love the texture and the different variations of color, and that's one of my design tricks, is to go to Goodwill and buy bound books and flip them around, and it helps to fill a bookcase. And so, I mean, this is filled with so many things that I love. Some of my old pottery, a dog that my daughter made in elementary school. This is one of those things, if my house was burning down, I swear I would run in here and grab this little dog. But we love it. And this is a Connor, I think his last name is Lillestrom. I hope I'm saying that right. He is an artist out of Wyoming, and he does a lot of wildlife. But my husband can rock a mean mustache. And so I saw this and fell in love with this oil pastel and gave it to my husband for Valentine's Day a couple years ago. And then this is our last purchase of art. We just went to Paris. It was really lovely with friends, and found this at the flea market, and it's Notre Dame and the Seine, and this was painted in 1870, which I think is pretty cool. It's a watercolor. And it just will always remind me of our special trip we took with friends. And my friend Ashley Vermillion, who came with us, she owns a store here in Raleigh, and she let me wear these beautiful gems from her store today. Thank you, Ashley. I love them. Here's a little Greek key again, and some silk drapes that I wanted to take all the way up to the ceiling to try and keep as much light and make this room feel as big as possible. And these are matching antique tables that I love so much, with a glass top. The other one's broken because I set my coffee mug on it the other day. Don't put hot mug on glass. But here's one of my old bowls again, and it's filled with shells from our trips. My girls and I love to find sea glass and shells whenever we're on the coast, especially back at home in Alabama. And so it's filled with little treasures that we find. This piece is a Mary Ball piece. She is from my hometown and now lives in New Orleans, and I love her work so much. A lot of people and movement and colors. It's a favorite of mine. This is our little baby powder room. It is a jewel box, and I bought this Gracie wallpaper, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and it was at a time where I didn't know if I would be able to like afford Gracie wallpaper, or my husband would even let me do it. So they used to back in the day. Now they just have them on their websites, but they would do every like year or two, they would do panel sales, like a sale of panels on their website. So I saved my money and knew it was happening, and I picked an all over pattern that I knew could go anywhere and hopefully in a small space, so that I could change up where the panels laid on the wall. So I purchased like 8 or 9 rolls, as much as I could get my hands on, and kept it until I moved into hopefully my forever house one day. And I used to hide it underneath our guest bedroom bed, and I lived there for years until we bought this house and I got to use it, and I love it very much. So we got our installer, I told him to move the panels, to use different pieces of the panels and get as many butterflies as possible, and I think it turned out lovely. I love it so much. And this is a Hunt Sloan painting, and I love to add, when I add flowers into this space, I love for I get this out in my yard, this foliage, and I love for it to kind of creep up the wall so that the flowers feel like they are actually a part of the wall. This is an antique Venetian mirror and a little bell light we found in an antique store. I cannot even remember where. And then I love these little bud vases. Got this at a new store in Fairhope this past weekend when I was meeting my new nephew. I love these. We picked this fun green, again, high gloss color, because this was, once again, just like a brown, scary space. But the paneling all up top, all of that was original. And so were the fun shutters. And so we just painted it all one color to hide any of the flaws from age, but also to keep that original. It's just really interesting. So the hardware is all original, and same with this and the towel rack, and so is the countertop. All right, this is my husband calls it the sunroom, I call it the library, but it's just a cozy little spot that we love. I personally love to take a nap on this couch. I have been collecting art books since high school, and so this homes all of my friends, all of my books that inspire me, and sometimes Will come home and I will have opened them and they're all over on the floor, and he's like, what's going on? I just need a little inspiration. We love these antique chairs that we recovered in a fun blue fabric, and we painted the walls green to accentuate how lovely our garden and the greens of North Carolina foliage is. I hope that when you are in this space that you kind of feel like you're outside. There are still books everywhere, magazines, my lovely home magazines that I love so much. And then on my prayer walks and meditations that I take in the morning, I like to find feathers. And so these are all of my special feathers from around here, and that I found on my walks. And then this is a painting of mine. I don't paint in this style anymore, but those are my ceramics. If you followed my work, I'm known for this. And I actually painted this. My best friend from growing up passed away about 6 years ago, and I painted this the week that she passed away. She had breast cancer, so I don't know, it just feels like a little glimpse of heaven to me. And I actually painted 2 of these paintings that week, and I have this one and her parents have the other one that they hang in her home, but this means a lot to me, and so I hung it on our wall. The best compliment somebody could give me of my home I got today. My friend Carrie is here, and she says that my home feels like a warm hug, and I just can't think of anything better. We love everything that is in our home. It's handpicked, usually sourced for years, looking for the right thing, and nothing is too precious. But I want you to feel loved when you walk in my house. Okay, welcome to my foyer. We love this space. I love how big and wide it is, and behind you are 2 double doors with storm doors, so I really enjoy the light coming through. This is our console table when you walk in. Absolutely everything is vintage and antiques, and this is a closet painting. It is my favorite painting in my house. When I was growing up, my parents would take us to New Orleans for the day. It was like a 2-hour drive, and we'd go and eat, and my parents fell in love with these French painters, and Clausade was one of them. And this was my first introduction into like real art, and I just absolutely fell in love with him and his big hats that he draws of the French Riviera. And I also paint big hats in my paintings, and it's because of this guy. And I don't know, just when I was little, I would look at these big paintings and these women in a place that I didn't know if I'd ever get to go and be a part of. And so those hats represent just a life that I wanted to live back then. And I love these big sconces I used to have a little painting studio in 5 Points here in Raleigh that used to hold some of my pottery, but they live now in my house. I like to collect cut glass, and so I love these little pieces. Sometimes I'll put flowers in them. And then up our stairwell, we kept this banister. All of this was original to the home, which we love. We loved the color and the floors. We loved these heart of pine floors. They have scratches and squeak, and we just loved that about the house, and so we kept them intact. They do tend to pull a little orange. That's why most of our wall colors are so neutral, but we love the floors. And then I've got a Sally King Benedict painting. She is a contemporary of mine that I love so much, and a Jack Penny. He is a really cool painter out of the UK, and this is just a print from one of his recent exhibits, and I am saving my pennies for a Jack Penny original. I really love how cheeky and fun his work is. This waiter is peeing in the pool, so I love it. This is our primary bedroom. Might be one of my favorite spots in the house. It feels like a little tree house, just right here. When they built this home, they planted 2 Japanese maples flanking the house and then 1 in our backyard, and it's huge and lovely. And in about, I don't know, a few weeks, it will turn vibrant red. The leaves do. They just turn just like fire red. And so this room has like a pink glow to it for a couple weeks of the year that I think is pretty magical. I sleep here, and it's the first thing I see when I open my eyes in the morning, and I'm very grateful for this beautiful view. We got this bed, I think it's from Pottery Barn when we first were married. I still love it. It's just neutral and easy. Antique side tables, and of course, again, these were candle abras that were turned into lamps from the Pink Door in Greensboro, North Carolina. These are my favorite lampshades from Newport Lampshade Company. Love them, and I'm very proud of these panels. My window coverings, I actually found them on Cherish. It's very scary to buy window panels from an antique store, especially sight unseen, but it was from a reputable buyer, and I just feel so in love with this embroidered fabric. I don't even know who it's made by, but it was too long for my walls, so I knew that I could chop them off, and so I got them hemmed and cleaned twice, and I pressed them myself, and I'm just really proud of how they turned out, and really glad that they don't smell bad. And then behind you is a painting this is a painting I actually finished this week. I'm taking new work to my gallery in Charlotte next week, but this behind it is the biggest TV you've ever seen, and I'm in a marriage and you have to compromise. So my husband got a humongous TV and overhead fan in the bedroom, and I got what he calls my grandma curtains in the dining room. But this is my La Pointe series, and these were the tiny dots that I was telling you about, and the color fields, and I really like how I will use the dots over this brown are the same color in this blue field, and I love the juxtaposition and the way that the colors change when they are against a contrasting color. And then I use gold leaf for the golden parts of the painting. This whitewashed sideboard was actually in my room growing up in Alabama. It has a sister piece that's in my dining room, and that holds some china, but I love that this made its way up from Alabama all the way up here to North Carolina, and it's beautiful. This is our primary bathroom, and the checkerboard floors, the marble, this was original to the house. This was one of the things that when I walked in, I squealed. as you have seen throughout the day, I love the color green. And so it being green and marble, I was ecstatic. So we kept this, and we kept the very funky countertops. I think that's such a fun, funky color. I wouldn't have necessarily put the two together myself, but I love them together. This is a sewn wallpaper. You've probably seen this a million times, but I love this wallpaper, and I'm so glad it lives in here. I love to take a bathtub, so this is very used, and I'm grateful that our backyard is so private and we didn't have to put any kind of window covering on the window. And then it's just filled with antique art. This is a lithograph of a girl lounging, and I love that because I'm usually lounging in that space. And we're just filled with little bits and bobs of things that we love and pictures of my family. And so I adore being able to get dressed in this space every day, and I love it. I personally love to take a bath, and so this space is very used, and I'm grateful that our backyard is so private that we didn't have to put any window coverings on the wall. So I get to look out at the beautiful, again, Japanese maple right out the window while I'm in the tub. And this is a lithograph from a local antique store of a woman lounging, and I love how simple and the way it was framed in the beautiful ornate frame that it's in. I've always been creative. I didn't know that I would get to have the honor of being a professional artist until probably college. I went to Ole Miss, hotty toddy, and I studied art there. I thought that I would go into painting, but I had an awful professor that was just kind of full of himself, and the pottery professor, the ceramics guy, was fantastic. He had this big handlebar mustache and was just a character, and he really fed into his students, and I switched my major to study underneath him and started my career as a potter. And so from there I've just taken baby steps and got back into painting, and it's been just a slow climb for the past maybe 15 years. I've been a professional artist. Now we are in the screened-in porch that feeds into my studio. This is a very used and loved part of my home. I can come in and out from the pool, and it's usually not raining like it is today, but it has a nice sound. I love to paint out here when the weather is nice, and this is usually where I do my watercolors, and I'll have an easel out here and come in and out to get my paints, but it's just a really great space to be connected to nature. That's such an important part of my work, and you can see it through the color choices that I use. Okay, welcome to my messy little studio. This is where all the magic happens. I love this space. There's windows on either side, and so I get a lot of natural light. And this is all that I'm working on right now. I've got my kilns in the back and my wheel, and it's just usually a mess filled with lots of creativity happening. This is one of the fun swimmers that I've been working on. This is going to Ann Nielsen next week. And then this is a fun commission that I just got. This is a portrait of three sisters. They're the hats that I spoke about in the foyer that Clausade inspires from me. But they are all drinking martinis, and they all have matching bracelets. That was important to the mom who commissioned this. And a P in her necklace for her son's name starts with a P. This girl loves to set a table and flowers, so she has flowers in her hat. And the woman in the middle loves her cat, so they asked me to paint a cat. It's the first one I've ever done. But I love doing those portraits. And here's where I house all of my paints. I like to color code it. It's a mess, but in my head I know where absolutely everything is in here, if you can imagine. Here are some little pieces that I'm working on right now. I've got an upcoming show in LA that I'm really excited about, and I'm working on bringing these little pouts with me to the show. I make these they're little faces, and I make porcelain noses and mouths that I add to the paintings that are really fun. I started painting these when my daughter Levy was about 6-8 months old, and she was this perfect little precious porcelain beautiful baby with the biggest nose and mouth, and just so gorgeous. But she had the worst attitude. She just was always pouting and sassy, and so I just was thinking about her while I was making, and I just created these pouts of these women with, you know, kind of a little bit of an attitude and sassy look on their face. And so that's where these came from, and I'm excited to share these with people in LA. My favorite thing about my house is the people in it. And my favorite thing is just a house filled with laughter. Home means to me a safe space. I work here, I create here, so home is a place where I feel myself and the most inspired. Homeworthy, I have had so much fun with you this afternoon. Thank you for coming to my home in Raleigh, North Carolina. You are welcome back anytime, and I hope to see you again. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.